We will walk you through the agenda for today. So we'll start off by the introduction to the session, along with a brief of Federal Tax Authority Decision Number 3 of 2024, which is the timeline for registration of taxable persons for corporate tax. We will then provide a demo of the registration process, which will summarize the key takeaways from the session. At the end, there will be a survey which you will be able to give us your feedback regarding today's session, as well as submitting your questions in that. And then the questions that me and my colleague Hassa, we will be also discussing a few of them, which will be mainly about the corporate tax registration process. But in case of any technical information or extra questions you'd like to submit, you can do that at the end of the session when doing the survey. Now, I will hand over to my colleague.
Good morning, everyone. We will walk you through this webinar has been scheduled to walk you through the timeline specified on corporate tax registration process in addition to how to register for corporate tax. If you are already registered for VAT and excise tax, then the form for corporate tax registration will be pre-populated on the basis of the information available from Emirat Tax. However, you can update the pre-populated information that is editable. For those taxpayers who are not registered for VAT or excise tax, but are required to register for corporate tax, then the registration form will need to be populated with all the required details. As for the natural person, that is resident person exceeded the 1 million dirhams turnover threshold in the Gregorian calendar year, starting from 1st of January 2024, they shall submit a tax registration application for corporate tax to the FTA by 31st of March of the subsequent Gregorian calendar year. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the webinar to answer any question related to the corporate tax registration. Moving to the second slide, we will take you through the Federal Tax Authority Decision Number 3 for 2024 that prescribed the timeline for registration of taxable person for the corporate tax purposes. Moving with the first category, which is the resident juridical person, including free zone person, established or recognized after March 1st, 2024, as a person incorporated, established, or recognized under the applicable legislation of another country or foreign territory, and who is effectively managed and controlled in the UAE, their deadline for tax registration will be 3 months from the end of the person's financial year. And as for the person incorporated or otherwise established or recognized under the applicable legislation in the UAE, including a free zone person, the deadline is 3 months from the date of incorporation, establishment, or recognition. Moving to the second category, which is the non-resident juridical person after March 1st, 2024, a person who has a permanent establishment in the country, the deadline for tax registration application will be a period within 6 months, not exceeding 6 months from the date of starting the permanent establishment. And for the non-resident person with nexus in the UAE, their deadline within a period not exceeding 3 months. And for the natural persons conducting business or business activities, as a resident natural person who runs a business or carries out business activities during the calendar year 2024 or subsequent years, and whose total turnover generated for each Gregorian calendar year exceed the limit specified in the relevant tax legislation, their deadline for tax registration application will be 31st of March of the following Gregorian calendar year. And for the non-resident natural person who runs a business or carries out business activities during the Gregorian calendar year 2024 or subsequent years, and whose total turnover generated exceed the limits specified in the relevant tax legislation, their deadline will be 3 months from the date of fulfilling the conditions set out to determine taxable persons. Moving to the corporate tax registration demonstration. Starting from the beginning, you will log in into your Emirate tax portal where, Starting from the beginning, you will log in into your Emirate tax portal where you will need to add your credential details such as email address, password, and security code showing on your screen. You will click on the taxable person profile you would like to proceed with by clicking on view. Then you will go to the registration overview to choose the registration type action, then select register to start applying, and you will have the instruction and guideline page that will show you the service details, and you will view the required documents and expected time for the application. Once done, you will confirm that you have read the instructions and guideline by clicking on the checkbox at the end of the page and proceed with starting the application process by clicking on Start. Once you click on Start, you will move to the corporate tax registration process, which been divided into 5 short sections, and each section being represented in the progress bar, which are the entity details, identification details, contact details, authorized signatory, and for the 5th step, review and declaration. You are requested to ensure that the documents submitted support the information entered by you in the application, and all documents and details are up to date. This will help you avoid any rejection or resubmission of the application later. Once you make sure everything is correct and ready, you will click on the next step, which is the first one. You will select the entity type and entity subtype for your business from the drop-down list, and then you will move to select the purpose of registration from the drop-down list as well. You will enter your first name and last name in English and Arabic. You will enter your Emirates ID and passport related details, and you'll upload the supporting documents in document or PDF format. Then you will select no if you don't hold any other passport, and you will enter the date of commencement of the business, and you will enter the reason for registration. After that, you will enter the corporate tax period details. You can save as a draft, or you can click on cancel to cancel the application. After completing all mandatory fields, you will click on next step to save and proceed with the next section. You will click yes if you have a trade license details, and you will click on add license to upload your license details. Once you do, you will add your business activities by clicking on this box. After completing all the mandatory fields, you will click on add and proceed to the next step to save and go to the next section. You will enter your company address details, and you will ensure that your contact number and email are accurate and valid to receive the notifications on, and you will proceed to the next step, which is the 4th step, authorized signatory. You will click on add authorized signatory. and you can add one or more authorized signatory if required. You will enter your authorized signatory details and upload the supporting documents. After completing all mandatory fields, you will click on Add, and you can select Edit to edit the authorized signatory, or select Delete to delete the authorized signatory. Once you do, you can click on the Next Step button to save and proceed to the next section, which is the fifth section, to review and declare that all the informations highlighted in this section are correct, and you can mark the checkbox in the end of the page to declare that everything is correct and the information provided are valid. Then you will click on Submit. Once you do, you will click Yes to confirm your submission, and by that, your application is submitted successfully to the FTA. And you will have a reference number for future communication with the Federal Tax Authority. Moving to the common issues that are impacting the corporate tax registration process, I'll highlight a couple of points before moving to the key takeaways, that there are some common issues impacting the CT registration process. First, the entity type. Please ensure that correct entity type and entity subtype is selected. For the identification documents, if you are already a taxpayer in Emirat Tax, please make sure to update your valid identification documents such as Emirates ID, passport, etc. This is mandatory action where requested. For the shareholding, please ensure that the shareholding breakdown percentage assigned to each shareholder correspond with the actual percentage. And for the incorporation date, the incorporation date must match the company's commencement date stated in the MOA. And for the tax period, given CT is imposed on an annual basis, it is necessary to specify the tax period. The tax period will normally be the universal calendar year, which is from the 1st of January until 31st of December, unless the business applied a different 12-month period for preparing its financial statement. Moving to the key takeaways. FTA decision number 3 of 2024 and public clarification CTP 001 provide the timeline by which each type of taxable person is required to submit a corporate tax registration application. And as for the juridical resident person, if they are incorporated, established, or otherwise recognized after 1st of March 2024, they must apply to register within 3 months from the date of incorporation, establishment, or recognition. And for the juridical non-resident person has a nexus in the UAE after 1st of March 2024 must apply to register within 3 months from the establishment of the nexus, or has permanent establishment in the UAE after 1st of March 2024. Must apply to register for corporate tax within a period of 6 months from the date of the existence of the permanent establishment in the UAE. As for the resident natural person who conduct a business or business activities during the Gregorian calendar year 2024 and who has exceeded the turnover threshold specified in the relevant tax legislation must apply to register for corporate tax by 31st of March of the following Gregorian calendar year. And for the non-resident natural person who conduct business or business activities during the 2024 Gregorian calendar year and subsequent years, and whose turnover has exceeded the specified threshold, must apply to register for corporate tax within 3 months from the date of fulfilling the conditions to be a taxable person. Once the registration process is completed, the FTA will review the submitted application and may require additional information in order to process your application. And upon the approval of the application, You will be notified by email and be issued with the corporate tax registration number.
Thank you so much, Hassa, for providing clear instructions on how to register for corporate tax. So before moving to the Q&A session, please follow us on our social media channels to stay updated on the upcoming workshops that will be related to CT and to make sure that you can access our services. And now we will be moving to the Q&A session. But before that, I'd like to show the QR code available that's related to the screen, which I will be posting in the chat box. Also, you can scan the QR code available on the screen right now. Please make sure in question 5, you choose the corporate tax journey in question number 5. And any questions that will not be answered in the Q&A, you can submit them in the survey, and they'll be seen by the FTA team and by the team of our experts, and will be contacting you directly to give you the answers that were not answered in today's session. So I'll give everyone 5 minutes to scan the QR code. Starting off by the first question. Can a subsidiary join or leave a tax group midway through the financial year?
Thank you, Hawra. Yes, an application to join or leave a tax group could be submitted in the middle of the financial year. However, upon FTA approval, the joining or leaving should be effective from the beginning of the tax period specified in the application.
Okay, so moving on to the next question, Hissa. In 2024, a natural person started a new business through an LLC where he owns 100% of the capital, single owner LLC. Who should register in this case?
The LLC is a taxable person who is a juridical person, have a separate legal personality from its owner. Then it should register for the corporate tax purposes.
Okay. How about we'll move to the third question, and which is how can a sole establishment register for corporate tax?
Same process as any other taxable person. However, a sole establishment will be registered as a natural person as there is no distinction between the business and the natural person running the businesses. So, if the revenue from sole establishment exceeded 1 million dirhams, it needs to register.
Moving on. I have another interesting question, which is, can any company or a natural person elect for the small business relief, or will the FTA inform them whether they are eligible for that?
Yes, election for small business relief is required to be made in the tax return for the relevant period. No application or intimation is required to or from the Federal Tax Authority as long as the revenue does not exceed 3 million dirhams.
Okay. How about we move to the next question, which is, what is the tax period for natural persons?
The tax period for a natural person is the Gregorian calendar year from 1st of January until 31st of December. Hence, the first potential tax period for natural persons is the 2024 Gregorian calendar year, 1st of January 2024 to 31st of December 2024.
Okay. So what would happen, which is my seventh question, what would happen when a natural person already registered for corporate tax has a turnover from business or business activity that is below 100, below 1 million dirham in a subsequent Gregorian calendar year?
For a natural person who has registered for corporate tax with the Federal Tax Authority and find their turnover has fallen below the 1 million dirhams threshold during any subsequent Gregorian calendar year, should not deregister for corporate tax unless they have ceased conducting business or business activities. They will retain their tax registration number and be required to file a nil tax return up to 30 September of the year following the end of the calendar year in which their total turnover derived from the business or business activities conducted in the UAE does not exceed 1 million dirhams.
Thank you, Hafsa. As for the eighth question, I have a very interesting question, which is, what is the time limit to file a tax return?
Okay. A natural person that is a taxable person must file a corporate tax return with the FTA no later than 9 months from the end of the relevant tax period. Natural persons should submit a single tax return for their business and business activities subjected to corporate tax.
Okay. So let's say if a natural person is conducting two businesses in the UAE, should he register each separately or all businesses at one time?
As there is no distinction between the business and the natural person running the business, so the natural person conducting multiple businesses will register one time only.
Okay. So the last question that I have for you, Hassa, today is if the natural person meets the criteria in the Gregorian calendar year in the year 2024 to register for corporate tax, when exactly is the deadline for the natural person have to register in order to avoid any penalties?
For the Gregorian calendar year 2024, the deadline for natural persons registered is 31st March 2025. This should include all income and expenditure for 2024 only, and not 2023, which is out of the scope of corporate tax for natural persons.
Thank you so much, Hassa, for your insightful words and answering the questions we had for you today. As for any other questions, please make sure that you submit them when you're doing the survey. Also, please, when doing the survey, make sure that you choose in question 5 corporate tax journey. For any extra questions that you might have, please submit them through the survey, and our team of experts here at the FTA will address them by contacting you later on.